This is Off Track.
What happens if you start panicking?
It's just because I really like the book Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It's not like an anxiety thing. I take medicine for that.
Have you ever thought to like have different backgrounds for the 3 monitors? Because like that seems aggressive.
I think that would be worse. I think it'd be weirder to have like different backgrounds per screen.
It'd be like three pictures hanging on your wall. You wouldn't have 3 of the same pictures.
I don't like that. I don't like that idea.
Yeah, you should make like one a picture of me, one a picture of Alex, and then one a picture of me and Alex.
Literally, I have a picture of you.
Yeah.
I have a picture of Alex.
Yeah.
And then I have a picture of Hazel. So
right.
I'm good there.
I love how I got the middle.
Yeah, it's a good picture.
So, all right, we'll retune this a little bit. One picture of me, one picture of Alex, and then one picture of Hazel, Alex, and I.
Without you.
Without me.
Yeah, no, I don't know if you noticed your name was not on
I don't know
list.
if that picture exists yet.
It might not.
It's possible to happen very soon.
That's true. I'm coming to
like
Indy
in 48
tomorrow.
Hours.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're saying is we got some new screens coming. All right. Man, that was a slow start to an episode. Wow.
Well, it is 6 a.m.
Well, don't
for
panic,
some of
James.
us. Oh, don't worry. I never do. What are you eating? Don't say breakfast.
Banana bread. It's awesome.
Homemade?
Kelly's gotten
win.
on that white girl kick. You know how it was like sourdough and COVID?
I was just going to say.
She's like 5 years late on it.
Well, whatever.
It's
we
cyclical.
didn't say she was fast at things.
It is cyclical. And look, let's be honest. Banana bread never goes out of style. Banana bread's pretty fire.
Well, here's what's interesting. I don't like bananas. I mean, I will eat bananas because they're a convenient snack and like heading to the gym or between
potassium
workouts or whatever. But like I force it down.
Interesting.
Get it?
Phrasing.
Not because it's shaped, just because I don't like it.
Do you know what's good is if you dip a peanut butter or dip banana in peanut butter, that makes it good.
It's not possible. It's not stiff enough.
Again,
he's right.
Phrasing.
Like I understand the phrasing, but he's right. Like you would have to apply the peanut butter to the banana.
Yeah,
you can't
via a knife.
unless you're putting it in with the peel, and then what the hell are you
that
doing?
doesn't make any sense.
That's counterproductive. No, let me paint you a picture. Yes, you can just like spread it on. That's fine. But if you're using like natural peanut butter, it's kind of goopy enough. You can just dip it in. If you're like rocking Jif, extra crunchy or Skip, yeah, that's not gonna work well.
What the hell are we talking about?
Guys, this is what happens when we start recording early in the morning after a long weekend, which we should probably talk about at some point.
Well, we should probably talk about it because Lord knows most people didn't see it.
Yeah, we'll talk about that too. But we should talk about the race itself, and then we'll get into who watched it or not and why.
Okay.
So, Alex, we'll cover off your weekend, and then we'll cover the race off, in totality.
Right.
And then we'll cover some other stuff. But I remember very clearly that on this show, you, after a very positive sim session, declared that you were going to win the race.
Did we not?
I don't know. This is what the people are here to find out. So how did your weekend go?
Well, the 27 car won. It's just I'm 5 years removed from it.
There was a bit of a mix-up there.
Yeah,
that car does have good success there.
That car's really good there.
Jeremy's won that race a lot.
Jeremy, like I'm starting to think that maybe it wasn't me at all. Like Jeremy's just the man.
Jeremy Mills, of course, the engineer of the 27 car.
No, okay, so yes, I was very optimistic. Okay, when I signed up for this,
be more specific to what? Okay.
I and the team and probably everyone knew that like Long Beach was their worst track, and there was a lot of things that came down the pipeline in the off season. There was a lot of things that were learned at St. Pete. There was a lot of things that were developed in the sim, and even though it's a road course, they were correctly applied at thermal. There was a lot of very good things that were happening from an offline vehicle sim standpoint, from a shake rig standpoint, from a driver in the loop sim standpoint, to where I fully was, as I said on the show, like incredibly confident that we had resolved a lot of the issues that they had there previously, and that we were going to have a really big step forward and be competitive. And some of that ended up being true. Unfortunately, not to the extent that we were hoping for. So on Friday, we kind of came to the track with a sim developed setup, which is a brave thing to do, I think, in a lot of respects.
A little risky.
It's a little risky. But the reasoning for it was, well, the baseline that we have there as a team sucks. So why would we
start
that's
there?
Insane. Yeah. Why would you start there?
We
it hasn't
already
worked for
know
years.
that one sucks.
Right.
Yeah.
So you might as well like swing for the fences a little bit, which we did. And we missed in some respects. But what I love about this team, and it was clear from the first day or first half day at the Sebring test, their ability to pivot when things are in the is incredible. You know, because it's a small group, because everyone ultimately that is in the engineering truck, whether it's my race engineer or not, they're all involved in the building of the setup. So everyone has a very clear understanding of what the car is and why the car is doing X, Y, or Z, whether that's good or bad.
Right.
And so when you suck, it's a fast turn, because you're not trying to convince one person who doesn't really understand why and is trying to theorize based on what they previously did or based on what the sim is saying or whatever. Like, everyone came to this decision together, and it's like, bam, okay, this is why it doesn't work.
Right.
And so we kept some of the things, and we went down a different avenue on some of the other things overnight into Saturday, and it was much better. And then we qualified 8th. So I think, considering we were literally 24th in practice 1, and like I couldn't drive the car, to having a completely different day with conditions, like it was much, much cooler Saturday than it was Friday. And only seeing the green tires again in qualifying, like the execution level and the ability for the team to like dig out of a hole is really, really good. So,
and that's a big deal, because like we talk a lot about how in this series, it's limited track time. You have 2 practices before qualifying. We talk about this all the time. If you don't roll off the truck strong, it is really hard to rebound from like an off start. But the jump that you guys made from first practice to qualifying was like pretty significant.
No, it was huge. And ultimately, like we were still missing a big step of pace to like the pace setters, but
I think
a lot of that.
Fell asleep. Tim fell asleep. Tim actually fell asleep.
No, I was watching a video on my phone.
It looked like he was sleeping. Can we just cut it so that it looked like he was sleeping? Sorry, Alex. I didn't mean to interrupt. I just thought that was pretty funny.
So we were still missing a lot of pace to be contending for pole, or honestly the Fast 6, but we were the second best Chevy, right? And I think that, as much as I hate to say this, and it pains me to say this, there's still a massive discrepancy at Long Beach in particular between Honda and Chevy.
Just because of drivability?
No. The drivability, Chevy has done such an amazing job in the off season with the drivability and the torque delivery and the consistency and everything. And like, it's good.
Okay.
There is just an architectural difference that is impossible for us to overcome until there's a new engine.
Okay.
When HPD designed the engine, and without getting into the details of it, there was very specific hardware components that they designed that generates significantly more torque and less top end than a Chevy. And Chevy built their engine for Indianapolis and for the 500, and that's why you see the difference. Now, there was a period of time where Chevy also, on top of that, had a lot of issues with drivability and traction and the torque surges and all that sort of thing. But that's all been dialed out, and there's still this difference. And it's like, well, there's only so much you can do with a homologated engine. You can't start changing components. So that is it. It's cool because Chevy did everything that we asked. It's sad because we still are going to indefinitely be in this hole at certain places until there's a new engine, which Lord knows when that'll happen. So, fast forward to the race. Tires were a big topic of conversation. There was a period of time where it looked like the green tire was going to hold up. Thankfully, I think for everyone, it didn't, which meant it went to a 3-stop. But here's the thing, James. I really don't like this version of IndyCar. This version of IndyCar that we extend the race distance. We all know why. We want to try and get rid of the super massive fuel save 2-stop and make it a race that's, cars are pushing and you can see true pace be the differentiating factor. But the alternate tire is so poor that it ends up not actually being a factor because you can't run a stint of any significant length on the alternate. So it ends up being a fuel save, tire save kind of 2-stop anyways. It's a pseudo fake 3-stop. And quite frankly, that's why, aside from Will's, quite honestly, rare mistake at the start in St. Pete, that's why there's been no yellows. It's because no one is driving at 100% anymore. Everyone is driving around at 85%, 90%, trying to kind of conserve tires, but also having to hit a fuel number because the alternate tire doesn't last long enough for you to be able to do anything. And this version of IndyCar sucks. It's not interesting. I'm sorry. It's not fun to drive. It's not enjoyable to race. I'm not saying that there can't be good shows. I'm not saying that the race on Sunday was bad, but the fact of the matter is there is no yellows because no one is trying, and it's wild to me.
So it seems like is it one problem? Well, I feel like there's two problems. I feel like what you're talking about in terms of the racing and what's happening and what you're having to do from behind the wheel, one issue. But then you say it's not fun. Is it not fun because you're doing that, or is the car not fun to drive even at 100%?
The car, I mean, Long Beach was one where it was very apparent, the weight of the car. It was an eye-opening. It was an eye-opening one where, teams are developing and teams are able to, get the thing to do a lap, right? Like, and the alternate tire is softer than previous years. So like the pole lap time was pretty fast. Like Kirkwood that's a fast lap, but it's one iota of the weekend. And it's such a small fraction of being able to push the car to that limit, because even in qualifying, it's one time. It's not like you get 2 laps at that. So you get ultimately throughout the entire weekend, 3 laps where you get to drive the car at 100%. And it does a pretty respectable lap time, and it's like nice and fun to drive. The rest of the time, it's not there because the hard tire doesn't have really the ultimate grip to support the weight of the car. It's a good tire in terms of durability, but it doesn't have that grip level to offset the 70 odd pounds or whatever, especially at a street circuit, especially with bumps and pavement changes and challenging braking zones and that sort of thing. So yes, for very small glimpses, it's nice and it's exciting, but it's such a rarity now over the weekend that it's on a whole, the cars aren't fun to drive. And
is there a fix to that other than just the new car? I mean,
No,
is it get rid of the hybrid? Is it fix the tire, like change the tire compound in the middle of the season, which I know they're not going to do either of those things.
There is fixes, none of which will be applied. Maybe they will be applied in 2026, but for 2025, no, I don't see a fix.
For the racing itself, right? We came into this year and Firestone was tasked by IndyCar with input from teams and drivers.
Firestone did exactly what they were asked to do.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Yeah, we're just making sure making sure that's clear.
Yeah.
They were tasked with bringing tires that had a bigger delta, bigger difference in lap time between the hards and the softs, and that had the softs kind of fall off more and kind of not last a stint. That was almost sort of the idea in a lot of ways, right?
But wouldn't that already happen with the hybrid anyway, with the added weight?
Yes.
I'm going to pretend
James,
like
let
Alex
James finish.
didn't tell me that.
They just wanted it to be like a very obvious difference, like a big difference between the two tires. So we saw in St. Pete that with the effect of the hybrid and the heat and all those things, it was probably too much there, right? But they make a street course tire for both compounds. So that was kind of, I think, a little bit unique to St. Pete. So they did what was asked. And you're saying that the knock-on effect of that becomes the alternate is so degrades so much that you end up having to just run it for as long as you can, but it's really not that as long as you can to then have the other stints just be super fuel savvy on the primary. So we've inadvertently created a monster in that you can't push the alternates in the race too hard because you need them to last as long as possible. But that long as possible is just long enough so that way you put the hards on and it's just drive around to a number to make the race.
Correct.
Okay. So
street courses. Now,
courses.
Thermal is not a fair example because like the DAG there,
it's just a weird race.
It's a weird race. Barber will be much more telling with how those races are going to go because ultimately the compounds have not changed really from 2024 to this year. So there's still hope that this isn't the case for the entirety of the season, but certainly Detroit and Toronto will be this.
Right. And Barber and IndyGP will be good kind of yardsticks because IndyGP has always been interesting because that's one of those ones where the tires were close enough that some teams and setups, it was a black race for them. Some teams and setup, it was a red race.
No, just one car. It was a black race.
Yeah, fair. For the most part, it's a red race there.
Right.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens at those events. But yeah, man, the fact that we've gone essentially 3 races without a caution. We had one in a first lap thing.
Right.
Pretty unprecedented. I don't know if we've ever had that.
But that's what I'm saying. Like there's not even a physicality to it anymore. Like you're just driving around in zone 2.
Yeah.
Heart rate wise.
Yeah.
You know, because you can't exert yourself to challenge the car because you won't. Well, A, you don't have the fuel to do it. And B, like the tire, even the primary, like it's not unlimited grip. Like it's good, it's durable, but like you can't just drive like because again, the extra weight of the car and all this sort of thing and the extra demand on the rear tires with hybrid deploy and all this stuff, like you can blow up the blacks as well. So
right. Now, that said, first laps are still risky. And St. Pete, obviously, we had an incident, but Thermal and Long Beach, we did not. Pit cycles are still risky. And, you know, it looked like the hards on an outlap at Long Beach were kind of tricky.
Yeah,
they looked not great.
Yeah.
So when you've got guys in these, you know, green flag pit cycles coming out on hards when some dude on hot tires is coming up on them, not making mistakes, not having any of those passes go sideways. Because we can get more to your race. You got hosed in that you had a stop that took longer than planned, and ended up
story of my life, bro.
Right. We'll get to that. Ended up getting dumped out basically at the front of a 5-car train of cars on hot tires, and there's literally nothing you can do. Yeah. But that's a prime opportunity for to go sideways and to have a caution. Ericsson had a similar one where he just got dumped out in front of people, just got trained for 2 laps. And like, again, so as much, you know, Kirkwood was under the most pressure you can basically have in an IndyCar race, which is street course on hard tires on an outlap with a good driver and a good car on hot tires behind you, and nobody screwed up. So I gotta give you guys all a lot of credit as well for this. Yes, fine. For the 90% of the race where you're cruising around to a number, there's still 10% where there's ample opportunity for guys to screw up, and
you're right,
haven't done it outside of St. Pete. So anyway, let's get back to your race. Qualified 8th, which was brilliant. Had an awesome start. Picked up a couple spots, running 6th. And then
big shout out to both Marcus Marcus Square.
The Marquis.
The Marquis. Because I was in a position where like I was the only place I started on the outside of row 4. So like the only position I could really be was on the outside of turn 1. And because the way the Long Beach stack up effect, like rows 3 and 4, like the magic rows, because you're like accelerating to try and catch up to the front 2 rows. But by the time you get there, they decide to go. So you're carrying some extra miles an hour. So it's awesome, right? It's a Long Beach phenomenon that only really happens in those 2 rows. But anyways, so we had that momentum and we were able to get up alongside the Marquis. But it was 3 wide and I was on the outside of both of them. And I gave as much room as I could to Armstrong, who was inside of me, who had Ericsson inside of him. And
was there any peanut butter?
No one hit anyone. No one touched anything. And I sent both a text afterwards being like, thanks, glad we all survived. All of our races ended up being anyways. So I mean, whatever. So yes, so we started 6, we started on the alternate. Everyone but 4 cars started on the alternate. And let me tell you, the cars that started on the primes, because there was no yellow, that was the magic. But again, who would have thought that a street course race in IndyCar would not have a yellow? I banked on that in St. Pete. It didn't work. So I was like, well, I'm not going to do that again. And, had I done that again, it probably would have been pretty good. But I digress. We came in with Kirkwood a couple seconds back from him. And we had a issue getting fuel in the car, which, whatever. I mean, it doesn't bother me anymore.
Are you like allergic to gas? Like, is that, I'm starting to think it's your problem. Cause like 3 different teams, multiple races, the common denominator here is like, you're got a weird magnetic energy that just doesn't want fuel around you.
We call it the opposite of a Dixon.
No, like, yeah, like I will accept all responsibility. I don't know what you want me to say.
At this point, yeah.
At this point, like, yeah, whatever. Like, I don't even get mad anymore. So we came out, we lost 3 spots just in that. And then I came out and I met Joseph, who was on hot tires in 1. I had to brake. I lost another spot to someone else. And then I ended up losing a spot to Ericsson. And so then that kind of set our day. We lost like almost 9 seconds in that whole exchange between the outlap and the pit stop. And then ultimately we were on I don't want to say wrong strategy. We were on the strategy that won the race. However, the 4 cars that started on the primes, Lungard, who drove a great race, Santino, who drove a great race, Kiffin, who also drove a great race, and Stingray, who drove a great race. Those 4 cars were the ones that started on the primaries, and they just vaulted everyone. Dixon as well, but you would expect that. So all 5 cars, not 4, that started on the primes were in the top 10. So you combine our issue in pit lane, plus we got beat by those cars, and we end up 15th. So positives to take from the weekend were it was by far ECR's best Long Beach. A lot of the things that we discovered and thought would work did work. The sim correlation and the all of the magic stuff that we thought we'd have going into Long Beach isn't quite there yet. But again, a huge step forward. So I'm coming away with there happy. I knew that the street courses were going to be the challenge for us in 2025. We've survived 2 fairly well, 2 to go. But again, getting to a part of the calendar that I'm super excited about.
All right, so that's your day. The day on the whole was interesting.
Fan turnout. Let's just talk about that for a second.
How about Friday looking like race day?
Phenomenal.
Like they're gonna start having a problem with too many people there and like not being able to move around and not enough bridges and stuff.
I've never seen anything. I don't think I've seen anything like it outside of Indy. Like it was mind boggling. It was really, really awesome.
Great to see. It was fun because it was Buxton's first time going to Long Beach, and seeing his reaction to it was actually kind of interesting because obviously he's been to some big races in his time. And he was just absolutely he was like a kid in a candy store. It was hard to get him to where he needed to go because he kept getting, he's like, ADOS, right? Attention deficit. Ooh, shiny. And he just kept getting, distracted and brought around.
British version of Hunter Ray.
Yes, exactly right. Right. So yeah, huge credit to everybody at the GPLB and the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach and everything they've done. Jim McCallion and his team. As we heard earlier in the year, the event's now been purchased by Penske Entertainment. So it's a Penske Entertainment property. But, I spoke to some of the big wigs up at Penske Entertainment who said, like, look, for this year, we kind of just let it run as is and watched now kind of through a different lens from the promoter side and took some notes on things to do. But fundamentally, I mean, that team does a great job. It's hard to argue with what they've done. 50 years it's been going, and I mean, I don't know if I heard specifically this was a record crowd, but I'd be surprised if it wasn't.
It was. Yeah.
There you go. Easy to
210,000 people over the weekend, which is,
dude, that's huge.
When you consider F1 and the magnitude that it has gotten to, and also the scale, like the tracks they go to are much larger than ours.
Dude, this is a small place. Like, there's not a lot of grandstands.
Like that is on par with what F1 is pulling in the States, and that's incredible. So, like,
let's put it this way. So I remember that Suzuka, one of the most storied racetracks in the world, permanent road course, lots of space, lots of grandstands, 255,000 over the weekend.
Yeah,
we did 210 at a street course.
I know.
We're like, 4 of the 11 corners have no possibility for viewership, for like trackside viewership. So like almost half the track, like a third of the track, there's not even an option to hold people.
Yeah.
So yeah, super impressive. And like, obviously you got the IMSA race on Saturday, which is huge. You got drift cars every night, which is awesome. IMSA paddock,
Foreigner played Saturday night.
I feel like we're just glossing over the jumpy trucks.
Oh yes. Stadium Super Trucks, always a popular addition to the calendar. And dude, the other one that blows me away is when Saturday night, the IMSA paddock clears out and that whole bit of the paddock area becomes this like car corral for insanely nice and expensive supercars. So you go from like millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars in race cars and race trucks to like probably more millions of dollars in just like people's
Porsches and
personal
Bugattis. Yeah.
Dude, it was on, like, they were packed in there. I was walking around like, I've never felt more poor than I do in this moment. Like, this was an unbelievable thing to get to walk through. Some really, really nice cars. So yeah, event, awesome. Race, honestly, was still pretty good because even though there's no cautions, we had those alternate strategies playing out, and it was really fascinating to keep track of Lundgaard and how he was doing, and Stingray, career best finish for him. Shout out Stingray, or career match best, best on a rotor street course. Career best finish for Kiffin Simpson, who also drove a great race. Incredible, 16 places up for Santino. So great job from him. Then you had still the battle of the Andretti's. Then you had Polo versus Kirkwood on that final stop. Like, dude, I was sweating for Kyle on that outlap. Like, it was, you've been in those situations, you know how tense it is and how tough it is. You've got the guy that's won every race so far this year on your gearbox on hot tires. You have zero room for error because there's concrete walls everywhere. And you have to just go out, put your foot down and get it done. And he did it. He thrived under the pressure and got it done. Great to see. Lundgaard getting that podium, amazing. And moved up to third in the championship. And I gotta say, man, and you will have a unique ability to have perspective on this, but since Pato kind of became the guy over at McLaren, and we've talked a lot about how this setup has developed around his very unique driving style and all these things. Everybody that's been alongside him has like taken some time to find out how to get pace out of that car or make the car their own. 3 races into his time there, he's got 2 podiums and is third in the points. I don't know the last time Pato wasn't the top point scoring driver on that team.
Yeah.
I don't know the last time he wasn't the head of the championship, say after 2 rounds, maybe he had a bad St. Peter or something, but is that, are we seeing like maybe a shift in the power dynamic over there?
I don't don't necessarily
Too early to tell?
Yeah, I don't talk to enough people over there still to know. I do know that Christian's engineer, Chris Lawrence, who was my engineer last year, doesn't subscribe to the philosophy that it's the 5-car or the highway.
Right.
And so I think Chris, in his third year of being a race engineer, like I saw what he did with Felix, and Felix's best year at McLaren was with Chris as a rookie race engineer. My best year at McLaren from a pace standpoint was with Chris. And so I think as Chris is getting more confident and getting more into that role of being a race engineer, and he has someone as fast as Christian, and honestly now with the experience that Christian has, he's not a rookie or a young kid anymore seeing these things for the first time. Like he's been around the block, and quite frankly, like the Rahal cars on street courses are good cars. They are able to make a good step. I don't think Pato is necessarily changed. I think Pato is still as quick as he's always been. I think Pato is still probably the lead guy there, but it'll be interesting as the year goes on if this dynamic continues in some way, shape, or form, how people start to spin it.
If you look at the facts, I mean, Pato had a problem in St. Pete qualifying. I forget why he qualified as bad as, or like just missed it,
made a
whatever it
mistake
was.
in turn one. Yeah.
Fine, made a mistake.
Yeah.
Had like a really
Was on
bad hand
pole.
dealt to him in the race with a flat and whatever, and drove up to 11. So actually drove a really, really strong race.
Yep.
Thermal
Pole almost won.
Really, really good drive. Because again, as you talk about the kind of new requirements from racing an IndyCar in terms of hitting a fuel number, taking care of tires, whatever, those aren't things you normally would attribute to Pato and like his driving style.
I would say the
necessarily.
old Pato. I think Pato's figured it out by now.
That's what I'm
but
saying.
Yeah.
So like Thermal was a great example of that. I mean, only one guy beat him. They had better tires at the end, whatever. And then even in Long Beach, he had qualified Christian. Christian just ended up on the alternate strategy, which worked really well. Like had Pato started on hards, he could have done the same thing. So maybe it's too early to be making conclusions like that. And if you think about it, Pato's actually had some really, really good drives this year. F1, spoiler alert. If you don't want to know what happened, turn it off. Piastri won from pole. Another impressive drive from the young man. Russell second, Norris third. Red Bull in trouble. I don't know. Lots of different things, but
It seems so.
I'll be honest. I didn't. Now there's all the rumors that Max is leaving, right? Because the car's not fast enough. But like, if Max were to leave Red Bull, where would he realistically go?
Wherever he wants.
But well, I mean, it's not that easy, right? He's not going to McLaren. He's probably not going to Mercedes because Antonelli's the chosen one, and Russell's pretty close to a new deal. Aston Martin makes the most sense because he loves Adrian Newey. Adrian loves him. He loves Honda. Honda loves him. Both those guys are there. The team's already said that for 26, our drivers are set. It's Fernando Alonso, who'd be hard to fire, and the owner's son, which would be hard to fire. Not impossible. It is F1, but I don't know.
I think Ferrari, it'll be interesting to see how long Lewis lasts there. I know, it's going to be more than a year, but
yeah, it's going to at least be there next year.
yeah. I don't
So
know.
I don't know. I just don't see it. I don't see it.
We should give a huge shout out to Yuki because I think that that's the first time that a second Red Bull car has been anywhere near Max.
Yeah.
He was near Max in qualifying. He was near Max in the race. So that's a huge step forward from what was a disappointing Japan, I think, which was good to see.
Yeah. He finished within 10 seconds of him in the race, which is pretty solid. 2/10-ish in Q2 in qualifying, which is pretty solid. So yeah, shout out to him. It'll be interesting to see how that dynamic develops over the year. Tony Stewart won his first Top Fuel race, which is very cool. Congrats to him. My young man, Liam McNeely, Speed Group client, swept the USF 2000 weekend in NOLA. Shout out to him. I want to give a big shout out to Rob Wickens.
Well, I want to talk about his whole weekend because I got the debrief of it Sunday night, and I'm not surprised because why would I be surprised? But I am surprised because
It's
how can
still
you not be
so
surprised?
impressive,
Right?
You can't not be impressed.
Right. So practice one, they had an issue with some of the hand control systems and all this sort of thing. So didn't get really any laps. Practice two, he goes out and puts it P1, like
Fastest car,
like the fastest, not
Unreal.
like just fastest. Okay. And a very weird IMSA rule. I didn't know this existed. I didn't
New
know
for this year.
Oh, okay. Well, that's why I didn't know it existed. So in IMSA, which this is so stupid.
So dumb.
Like this is ridiculous. And we thought the FIA was bad. Apparently, if you cause a red flag in practice two, you get your fastest lap in qualifying, another independent session deleted.
I don't think it's just practice too. I think it's any practice.
Even worse.
Yeah. No, it's bad.
Like, walk me through, James, the rationale behind this. Like, why? Why does this exist?
I will explain to you in order all the reasons this makes sense.
Okay.
I'm
Got
done.
it. Sweet.
But dude, when this rule was so we were at Daytona in the drivers meeting, and this rule was like explained in the drivers meeting. You could have heard a pin drop. Everybody in the room was just sort of like, look at it. They're like, did I hear that right?
Correct?
Yeah, like he meant if you cause a red in qualifying, right?
Right.
Nay. Practice.
So if you cause a red in qualifying, do you get executed?
Yes.
Harsh but fair.
It's just here. Let me just vent real quick on why
Please.
it's so obvious why that's dumb. But
Yeah.
like practice is just that. It is practice. That is when you are supposed to push beyond the limit, to find the limit, to drop a wheel, to go in a runoff, to whatever. Half the time reds are caused by mechanical issues
Yes.
because cars have been sitting for a month since Sebring or 3 months since Petite when you
Or
get to
they're
Daytona.
cars and they break.
And they're race cars being pushed to the limit. Happens. Like to penalize teams and drivers in qualifying for look, if you like are trying to race a dude in practice and you mess up a braking point and you T-bone a guy and end his weekend because they can't run because you've totaled their car. Yeah, fine. Maybe there's some repercussions that should happen. But because a guy dropped a wheel on power, spins out, and the car won't restart because the alternator's too hot or something, like you just ruin the race. At a place like Daytona, whatever, qualifying doesn't matter. At a place like Long Beach, 100-lap race for 100-minute race for passing's impossible. Qualifying is everything. You literally ruin a team's weekend.
Okay.
Rant over.
So super stupid. So anyways, Rob apparently caused a red. I don't know the details of it, but
got stuck in a runoff because there was a mechanical issue and couldn't reverse or whatever.
Great.
Anyway.
So he lost his best lap in qualifying, which meant that he had to do 2 fast laps, which is hard because tires, as we all know, don't last forever. So to put in, like, you can't have, it's not like you can do like a semi-fast lap and then a fast lap because the semi-fast lap ain't good enough. So you have to do like 2 heaters. And so like that's hard to get, the tires don't do that per se. So anyways, they started a little bit out of position because, again, they were fastest in practice and they ended up qualifying 9th. Is that correct?
8th or 9th, yeah.
8th or 9th. And the race was what it was because you can't pass. And it was it was a war out there. But I don't think any of that should overlook the fact that he jumped in a car that he's really never driven with a hand control system that he has very little experience with a team that has no experience with, and they were immediately on the pace. And while we know Rob is like the man and can drive anything fast at all times, as we said at the beginning of this conversation, it's still incredibly impressive, and I'm super happy for him and proud of him. And it's awesome that I asked him point blank. I was like, okay, so it was ultimately a result. Was the team happy? He was like, dude, they're over the moon. And that's all you can ask for as a race car driver, especially in his position. So I can't wait to see him in the other 2 that he's doing, because if Long Beach is any indication, because he was like, man, quite honestly, like the hand control system in the street course sucks. Because like, if you look at the hairpin, you're trying to like, he was like having to guess because your hands come off the wheel because it's so much like steering lock you have to put in, and his hands have to stay on the wheel because that's what's controlling the brake and the throttle. And so he was like having to judge like when his hand would come off, like the speed he needed to be at. So anyways, I can't wait to see him on a permanent road course because like it's going to be
it's going to mess else. It's
Yeah.
going to mess up. It's going to mess up for people. It's going to be great. And then that was his Saturday job. Then his Sunday job, you know, he's sitting on the 27 stand helping that car out. And, you know, that went pretty well for them. So,
okay.
Well, I mean, he's there.
Oh, okay.
That's the sand he sits on. I'm just saying his team won. It was a team effort. But yeah, very exciting. So yeah, that was Long Beach. You've already been in the sim since then. How'd that go?
Have, James. Good. I mean, what I love about what we're doing is, man, we're correlating events immediately. So after every event, we've been in the sim on Tuesday, and that won't reap any benefits till next year. But next year it'll be huge because, you know, so much of the problems. I don't want to say problems. The question marks you have leaving a sim session is like, well, is that real? Like, is it really going to do that in real life? If you go do a 90 lap race at Long Beach after having been there for 3 days, and then less than 36 hours later, you're on the sim at Long Beach, matching the feeling, matching the corner speeds, matching the balance, to a point where you're like, yep, that's exactly what it was. When we go back there in March of next year to prepare for Long Beach, like there's not going to be questions of, is what's happening? Because you can't remember 12 months ago, right? You remember breakpoints, you remember certain things.
Not
that
the
happen.
detail, not the minutia.
Right, exactly. So no, it will be, that's exactly what it was. That bump is real. That traction event you have is real. Like that braking instability is real. And these are what we think we need to do to fix it. Did it fix it or not? Yes. Okay. Well, you're going to go to Long Beach a step ahead. So that's pretty cool that we do it. I begged teams and manufacturers to do that for the entire 10 years I've been in IndyCar, and this is the first time it's actually happened. So it's pretty exciting.
It's a lot of work. It's a big slog. You finish a weekend, you have to go straight to the sim, which we've talked about is not always the most fun day to do it. No. And you are just trying to dial. That's it. Like you said, it's such an interesting process because you're coming fresh out of the car. And you're like, okay, in this corner, it's doing this. So they manipulate the track grip, the tire grip, whatever, for that corner to feel like that. And then this corner to feel like this and this, whatever. And then so it's not even about making the car feel good. It's about making the car feel exactly like it did. So now you've got the starting point for next year. Yeah,
we didn't make a single setup change. It was purely tire model changes, track model changes.
Right. So you put the setup that you ran in the car, and then you just tweak the model essentially until it's so like. What do you know what your best race lap was?
68.9.
What was your best time in the sim?
Well, we
like how close did you
correlated qualifying.
Okay, sorry. How'd you qualify?
67.1.
And what was your best time in the sim?
67.0.
I'd say that's pretty good.
Pretty good.
I'd say that's pretty good.
Pretty good.
God, technology's neat. I like that. I like that stuff. Very cool. All right, guys. Well, that's Long Beach. Got a weekend off coming up. Have any big plans?
Big plans, man. Sleep. Enjoy one of 2 weekends off this month because Lord knows once May starts, it's for all of us until September. But hey, at least then no one can complain about 3-week gaps between races.
No, those get to September and complain about 6-month gap between races, but that's a different conversation.
All of which should be complained about.
Yes.
I'm not saying it's wrong, but at least for a couple months, we don't have to hear about it.
Yes. True. Tim, go back to bed.
That
Alex,
was the plan.
assume have fun at the gym or wherever you're going now.
Yeah, thanks.
I got to go do laundry from a 3-week trip. Wish me luck. This has been Off Track with Hinch and Rossi. Off Track is part of the SiriusXM Sports Podcast Network. If you enjoyed this episode and want to hear more, please give a 5-star rating and leave a review. Subscribe today wherever you stream your podcasts. We are at Ask Off Track on Twitter and Instagram. And if you want to follow us on Twitter, we're at Hinchtown and at Alexander Rossi. If you want to follow Tim, though we have no idea why you would, he's at the Tim Durham on Twitter. Find us on YouTube and subscribe to our channel for exclusive video content. Off Track is produced by Tim Durham, and by that we mean Tim.